Greetings, queens and kings. Welcome to another session of Sankofa Speaks, our third show. We're in September now. We've just finished the powerful month of Messiah. And now we're in September. People have gone back to school. I like to call this the education month in terms of the academic year. But welcome to Sankofa Speaks. So every show, I like to introduce what the show is about. The importance of this show is to draw on our warrior ancestors, our spiritual power, our spiritual intuition that they had, their sense of African pride as African women and men who organized for the needs of themselves, their families, their community, and the African world. In this time of war, we as African people, we are our best line of defense. We also need a space for reflection, growth, social development, and just plain talking. So that is how Sankofa Speaks, under the umbrella of Sankofa Rising was born. So for those who don't know what Sankofa means, Sankofa is usually displayed in the Sankofa bird from the Akan people of Ghana. And Sankofa means to retrace one's steps, return to your roots, go back and fetch. So I'm just going to quickly read what Sankofa means every show so people have an understanding and we're always staying rooted in that connection. Sankofa means to go back to the past in order to build for the future. Or we should not forget our past when we are moving ahead. We should learn from the past, that is, go back and fetch what we need and move forward into the future. The Sankofa is symbolic of the spiritual mindset and the cultural awakening African people are experiencing in the decades after independence on the African continent. There is much more to say, but that is Sankofa. So I'm always living in Sankofa as much as I can. And like I said, that's what this show was born from, the principle of Sankofa. So each show, I am showcasing our community, us, and the work that we do and the organizing that we do. And that is everyday people doing this work. And it takes every single one of us to work diligently finding our purpose so we can be servants of our community, but live for the betterment of our community and enrich ourselves and our lives. And with that said, my next guest has been a blessing in my life. I had the fortune of meeting her on Liberation Road in a Pan-African organization. She will speak about that organization. And it's not just a case of somebody you work alongside doing the work because you're always doing the work, but I've been able to inherit an auntie. My children have an auntie and a sole parent, and she's been warm, welcoming, educational, a wealth of knowledge. And yeah, so for me, I have been enriched by her and her family for many years. So, no one can't tell me nothing about my auntie Amitiye. Nothing. I don't even know bad talk about my auntie Amitiye. So with that said, welcome. I'm going to bring Auntie Amitiye forward. Welcome to Sankofa Speaks. I say Auntie Amitiye. As you can see, she's Sister Amitiye, but for me, she is Auntie Amitiye. She'll always be Auntie Amitiye. Welcome to Sankofa Speaks, Sister. I'm going to struggle. I'm just going to call you Auntie Amitiye. Everybody else can read it.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem at all, my sister. That's
Welcome
fine.
to Sankofa Speaks, Auntie Amitiye. How are you
Because
this
I'm
evening?
old enough to be your auntie anyway. So that's okay. And you've always called me auntie, so continue.
How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling very well, thank you.
Give
Right.
thanks. Yeah, so like I said, I've brought you here. We're in the September month, the month of, like I said, the beginning of the academic year for most in the Western world, I guess, and Western curriculums. But also, again, understanding how education and organization is linked. And I thought you'd be a fantastic guest to have to demonstrate that link. I was going to say how long you've been on Liberation Road, but I'm going to let you say that as well. So let us begin. Auntie Amitai, can you begin us on your journey on Liberation Road? When did it begin?
Okay, my sister. Tatenda for the introduction. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh, it began many, many decades ago, over 40 years ago. Right. I was a youngster when it all began, actually. And my first, how I very first got onto this journey was a newspaper that I picked up from somebody at work. I was actually in my second job. I was about age 21 at the time, and I picked up a newspaper at work called Black Voice. And the gentleman I picked it up from, he had bought it from somebody, and he wasn't really interested in the newspaper. He just had it on his desk. And when I saw the title Black Voice, it immediately caught my attention. And I asked him if I could have it. And he says, yeah, sure. And when I read the newspaper, I was just blown away, everything about Black people, etc., etc. So I sent off. They had a little slip inside for you to send for more information. I sent for that. And a couple of brothers from the organization visited me at my home and signed me up. And I became a member of the Black Unity and Freedom Party in 1979. And
Wow,
you wasn't even born then, were you, sis?
I was born in 1979. But
You
let me
weren't
ask you a
born
question.
then. Yeah.
Let me in relation. What did you have any? Uh, what was your? Um, did you have any kind of interest in black issues? Was it a normal thing to you just being in your community? What was the what was the interest? What piqued your interest? Why you thought that was something to you know delve into and apply to and take the time to write the slip? What was before that?
Okay, well, my dear, I just think it was nothing. I know it was the spirit of the ancestors because from I was a teenager, I had always had an interest in things to do with blackness, anything to do with black people. I just found
Mhm.
that I had an interest in it. Although in my family, my mother
Mm,
was a staunch Christian. She raised us as Christian. She wasn't interested in anything to do with blackness. You know what the Christians are like. They just want to know about Jesus and that's all. But there was just something within me, within my soul, that just
mm,
wanted to know. I don't know what it was. I don't know where it came from, but I just know that I was just interested in black people. I had no information. I had no books. And at the time, there were lots of negative things going on in the 70s about black
mm,
people, about
mm,
our youths being muggers, about our young girls getting pregnant to get council
mm,
flats, all this sort of negativity. And also at
mm,
the time, um, the Asians were sent out of Uganda over into this country. And the press was giving Idi Amin a rough time in terms of
mm,
basically calling him a cannibal and a murderer and a this and a that. saying he's
Mm,
murdering his own people. And although I had no information, I just knew that the things that the newspaper were printing about my community, about my people, I just knew deep down that it wasn't correct. But I
mm,
didn't know where to get information. I didn't know anyone who was interested in this. Nobody in my family, nobody at work. And so when I saw the newspaper and it said Black Voice, it caught my attention immediately. And when I read it and saw that it was about Black people, immediately I filled out the slip, posted it, and that's where it began.
nice. So go on. So you say the brothers came to your home.
Yeah, the brothers came to my home and basically told me, this was in 1979, told me about the organization, and I joined up and I began to attend their Sunday meetings every Sunday in Lewisham, or places like that. And I began to sell the Black Voice newspaper on the streets in Halsden. That nearly killed my mother. She nearly had a heart attack. All this all this black stuff that you're into. And basically I was the odd one out because none of my friends were inclined. Nobody at all around me. So she couldn't understand where this came from.
And let me say as well, what the other thing that I'm emphasizing on this show is the types of character that we have
Mm-hmm.
that enables us to do the work and to develop ourselves. And the level of character that you displayed then as a young person,
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is thinking about what you're thinking about. Nobody else is interested. But
Absolutely
you got this
nobody.
silent interest and you're just moving forward with it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
I
guess
love that.
what I discovered in the during the 80s, I can't remember which year it was. My mother whispered to me and she said to me, "Your father was a Rasta, but please don't tell anybody."
Lot of mercy.
And when she said that to me, I said, "Aha,
There there
that
it is.
makes sense." That's where I got this consciousness from. And immediately I knew that it was something spiritual. I
In you, yeah.
inherited that because for my father, and then she also told me about how he just got up in the 1950s when they were together and just became a Rasta and etc., etc., etc. And she didn't like it, she wasn't happy about it, etc., etc. But I knew that because my father became a Rasta in the 50s, and I knew what that meant in Jamaica at the time, that he would have
Mm,
been rejected by society,
mm,
despised and hounded like
mm,
Rastas were. So I said to myself, in that case, then he would have been interested in Africa and blackness for him to become a Rasta. And I said to myself, I want to really get to know my father. So I said, when I
mm,
go to Jamaica, I need to speak to him. I need to find out, did he meet Marcus Garvey? Did all these things I wanted to know. But anyway, that's another story. I'll come to that another time. But I found out where the interest came from because there was no one around me that had that interest, but I just found that I was interested in blackness.
mm,
And the creator, obviously the creator knew what was within me, the ancestors knew what was within me. So this was I was in my second job. I had left school in 76, and 79, that was when I saw this newspaper, and immediately it caught my attention and I acted on it. Yeah. So obviously
yeah,
the ancestors were preparing the path.
yeah,
And also in that same building where I was working, there was a gentleman there from Jamaica. He was one of the contractors helping to maintain the building. And we were going up in the lift one day, and he just gave me a book. And guess what the book was? The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey.
wow.
Just gave it to me. And
Yeah, wow,
until now, I've got that book.
wow,
So the
wow,
ancestors were guiding me. And
absolutely.
you will see that as I go on in the story of my journey, you will see that I was being guided. Yeah.
Thanks. No, sorry, carry on.
Okay, so I joined. Oh yeah, so the brothers, the organization that published the Black Voice newspaper, the organization was called the Black Unity and Freedom Party, and
Yeah.
that's the same organization that Brother Minka came out of, and his sister who passed away, Sister Furika Bantu. I knew
Mhm.
her. We were both members of Black Unity and Freedom Party. So was Brother Minka as well. So that's the organization I joined. And I stayed in that organization for a couple of years. And then I left. As a matter of fact, the main major thing that, I was selling the newspaper, I was typing for the newspaper, I was, doing the normal things that a member would do. The main thing that I do remember from the organization, though, was it was in 1981, if you recall, they had the Black People's Day of Action, and
Yeah.
the Black Unity and Freedom Party (BUFP) were involved in organize. They were one of the organizations that participated in putting on Black People's Day of Action, and I was on that march myself way back then.
Powerful.
Yeah. So I left after a couple of years, but I never fully left the community. I was on the fringes, but what I was involved with at that stage were mainly campaigning
Sorry,
organ.
just to say, Black People's Day of Action was a massive march where 25,000 people
That's
took to the
right.
streets after 13 young African children, African Caribbean children, was murdered at I don't know if we can say that loud on the internet, but was taken tragically at a house party, and a 14th child lost their life later on. So we
Yeah,
say 14, I think said, for those who are saying which march, that was a major
yeah,
um, thing in the community in the UK. But yeah, go on, sorry.
that's right. Yes. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that actually, because there will be a lot of people who won't be aware of that history. So yes, so early 80s, I was involved in campaigns such as the Committee for Human Rights in Grenada. I was involved in that campaign. What that campaign was, people may recall that there was a revolution that took place in Grenada, and the revolution imploded, and then America invaded, and we all know that Maurice Bishop and others were killed,
Mm,
and a lot of the people who were in the leadership of the revolution, they were arrested and put on trial, etc. So a campaign was established in this country called the Committee for Human Rights in Grenada, where we were campaigning to ensure that those brothers and sisters receive justice in the court system, etc. So I was involved in that campaign for a number of years. I was also involved in the campaign called the Tottenham Three Are Innocent campaign. Again, you remember the uprisings in the 80s, and you remember PC Blakelock was killed, and the Broadwater farm was invaded by the police, and several of our young people were arrested, and three of them were sentenced. And so we were involved in campaigning for justice for them. So I was quite heavily involved in those campaigns during the 80s. And just turn over now. Okay, so I was still looking to join an organization again, but wasn't sure what to join. Um, I was looking around, seeking, searching, and somebody directed me to a Black Studies course um, called Natenge. This was
okay.
this was being put on at a center called New Initiatives in South London. So somebody directed me there, and I went there and started to be involved in this Black Studies course. This was in the late 80s, probably 88, 89, that sort of time period. And whilst at this Black Studies course, um, somebody told me about two organizations. Well, a brother named Femi Biko. Somebody told me that he runs a Black Studies course. So I says, okay, I need to get onto that Black Studies course. Um, because actually Natenge at New Initiative was being run by an Asian gentleman. And some of us thought that it was a bit of a contradiction that we are being taught our history by somebody who didn't look
Mm,
like us.
mm,
So I
mm,
wanted to get onto a course run by how people. So somebody told me about Femi Biko, who runs the Black Studies courses in London. And then somebody else also told me that there's this dynamic organization called the Al-Bulan Revivalist Movement. But I'll come back to that. So that's where I first heard about the Al-Bulan Revivalist Movement, and then Brother Femi Biko. So I'm now going to move to the second stage of my journey. Now, this is the stage where I met Brother Femi Biko. It was either in 1989 or 1990. And Brother Femi, as most people will know, is the pioneer of the Black Studies movement in the UK. So he started it, he built it, and he did everything from during the 80s onwards. Yeah.
mm.
So when I met him, I joined this Black Studies course, and as time went on the course, Brother Femi identified a few people on his course that he said he wanted to invite to. Um, he wanted to establish an organization, and he wanted us to be part of establishing this organization. And the organization that he established in 1992 was called the Association for Pan-African Studies and Initiative. And so what he wanted to do was, and which is what he actually did, was to train a select group of people to teach Black studies. Yeah.
Uh,
So that was the aim of it. But there was more than one aim. He also, so that the Black Studies was to teach the adults, but he also wanted to prepare us to teach children as well. He
mm,
also wanted us to be involved in initiatives that involved um, reintroducing our people to our culture and
mm,
so on. So there were lots of things that we were involved in. So we were being trained to teach children, we were being trained to teach adults, and we were putting on events in the community as well. So APAS was established, as I said, in 1992. Um,
powerful stuff.
right. So we talked about some of the initiatives that APAS initiated. We, as well as the Saturday schools and the Black Studies courses, we also were putting on an event on a monthly basis called African Resurgence Day. This is where
Okay.
we'd invite speakers to come to these events, whether the speakers were from abroad or whether the speakers were from here, basically to help to re-educate our people to
Mm,
basically reclaim our identity and our culture, etc. Um, we also got involved in many things that I wasn't involved with before, such as Kwanzaa, Black History Month, um, observances, and so on. So, for example, ancestors that had gone on, we'd have remembrance celebrations for them because they'd done great works, etc. So
mm,
I was introduced to names that I had never known before. This was in the early 90s, such as Dr. Amos Wilson. I had never heard about him before. Chikanta Diop, I'd never heard about him. Emperor Shaka Zulu and many, many others that I had not heard of before. I was being introduced to them and their works in whilst I was in APAS. Um, so, so how did Brother Femi Biko go about preparing us? Um, Basically, he taught us about important books that we needed to have if we wanted to be involved in teaching his Black Studies program. He taught us how to do research, how to do lesson plans, how to prepare lessons, and also we had to go away, prepare lessons, and then come and deliver those lessons in front of everyone. This was in preparation before we would be allowed to to teach the Black Studies program or to teach the children in the Saturday schools. So, what schools did we establish? So, in 1992, we established Nubia African Community Foundation School in South London, and this was run every Saturday at New Initiative Centre. So as well as Brother Femi was the main teacher of the Black Studies courses. He was the main teacher, but he was preparing us. But in the meantime that we were being prepared, we started the Saturday school, and
Mm,
we were teaching in the, I shouldn't really say Saturday school, I should say foundation school, because that's what,
Foundation.
yeah, foundation schools, that's what they were. Then a few years later, we
Say
hope,
Nubia Saturday School is still running.
yes, it's still in existence, still going strong.
Today, yeah.
And a few years later, we started Tawi African Community Foundation School in Northwest London at Bridge Park Centre, actually.
Hey, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
and we run that school there for a number of years. Right.
Mm,
So, who were some of the students that Brother Femi took through his program at that particular time period? Because he may have taught other people to teach his course before and also
yeah,
after. But the time
yeah.
period that I was there, I was on the course. Most people will know Brother Robin Walker, who has published many books, including the most famous "When We Ruled." So he was one of Brother Femi Biko's students as well. Brother Jedna was one of the students. Brother Kenny Bakey, Brother Sankara, and then in the school we had some other people who were teaching in the school. There were founders like myself. There were also founders of the school. Sister Iola, Brother Kweku, now known as Prophet Kweku, um,
Mm-hmm.
Brother Nikojo, Brother Martin, all these brothers and sisters, we were teachers in the schools. But as I said, we were taught by Femi Biko because we really didn't have the knowledge prior to that stage, or the
Mm,
skills, or even the confidence or whatever that was required
mm,
to be teachers. But we were just we were enthusiastic. We loved our people. We wanted to serve our community. Yeah. And so we had the right person in the form of Brother Femi Biko to inspire us.
and he definitely has a skill in identifying those that can, with the right guidance, the right education, the right support, they can do the work. Because for brothers and sisters who don't know, Antami Tai is credited in brother Robin Walker's book as an inspiration to him in his education journey, in how he teaches and research and such things. So that is the level of I don't know what the word is, professionalism, detail intelligence that we're speaking to right now, brothers and sisters. And let me tell you, Auntie Amitiye does a detailed lesson plan. Don't play around with it.
And all thanks to Brother Femi Biko, because
Let me be clear.
before that time period, I knew nothing about. I'd never seen a lesson plan. I didn't know how to put a lesson plan together. I didn't know what aims and objectives. I didn't even know the difference between aims and objectives, and putting down what resources that you need, and how to structure the lesson, and
The amount of skills we learn in organization
oh,
develop
absolutely
is
phenomenal.
night. And you know, I'm not saying the piece of paper that we need, degrees and such things don't have a purpose. But I'm telling you, the things you learn in organization sometimes would really make you question where your money is going, because
Mm.
we learn, you know, an amount of skills that is just unmatched. But yeah, sorry.
That's right. To be quite honest, as well as having that spiritual urge to do the work, and it's a spiritual urge that keeps you going, because over the years you do get tired sometimes, but because it's a calling, and you came here to do this. On top of that, you learn so much from working within an organizational setting, because you learn to work with other people, you learn to work within a team. And as you said before, relating to teaching, you learn all the little skills. At first, to be quite honest, you're making more mistakes than anything else, because you obviously, as much as Brother Femi prepared us beforehand by doing role plays, how to do a lesson, etc. When you get thrown in front of a class, it does take quite a number of years to develop the competence. It takes a long time. As I say, practice makes perfect. So it takes a long time, many, many years, to really feel competent, and then to start preparing lessons quickly and putting lesson plans together quickly. It takes quite a long time to get to that level. Yeah. So maybe initially we were experimenting on the children, I suppose, in that we didn't have the right skills. But I suppose when you're young, it's like teachers coming out of teacher training colleges, and
I
so
was gonna say exactly that.
yeah, that's
You know,
right. They're young people. They've just finished their degrees. They go to teacher training college, and as much as the teacher training courses have prepared them, there's nothing like actually starting to teach, and you're making mistakes, and you're going along, but as the years go by, you perfect those skills as the years go by. So whether you're in the school system, or whether you're in a community setting, you have to go through the same rough and tumble until it becomes smoother, yeah, over time. Yeah. So yes, brother Femi. Not only that, he without APAS, the Association for Pan African Studies and Initiative, without APAS, I really do not believe that I would be teaching within the community now. I just believe that, looking back on everything that happened, it's as if I was meant to meet Brother Femi Biko. I was meant to go through teaching within his organization, developing those skills. And although APAS folded in 2002, yeah, but I gained a lot from it. And from
mm,
there, I was able to move on to the Al Land revivalist movement. And also, as well, I remember when Brother Femi first suggested that we start teaching, that he wanted to open some foundation schools on a Saturday. and that we were going to be the teachers in those
Mm.
schools. And also, he wanted to prepare us to teach adults in his Black Studies courses. And I was saying, but I can't teach. I'm scared. I don't have the confidence. And he was, he always encouraged. He always say, yes, you can do it, you know.
Mm.
And he would sit down and, help you to plan your lessons and get you to run through role play several times and so on and so on. So he gave a great deal of encouragement. And I just feel that he was one of those who was put in place to help
Yeah.
me on my journey. Not just me, but the others like Brother Femi, like Brother
Brilliant.
Robin Walker, and many others who benefited so much from Brother Femi. We can't give him enough credit for
Mm.
all that he has done for our community. Yeah, and we have
Mm.
to sing his praises. Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. So that's the second part of my journey. So there was the first part as to how I got on the road. Then the second part was the days of APAS. Now I'm going to move to the third part of my journey, how I met the Kebalan revivalist movement.
Mm.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, Natenge Study Group told me about this spiritual organization who are dynamic and they're doing fantastic work in the community. And at that time, everybody seems to know brother leader. I'd never heard of him, never heard of the movement, but Natenge told me about it. And as a matter of fact, i don't know what I don't know how I came about the idea of changing my name. I don't know, but I was looking for help with changing my name.
Mm.
And that's how somebody in Natenge told me that Alke Bulan does naming ceremony. So I
How
met
do you,
him.
people listening, um, she's talking about reclaiming an African name.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time when we come on Liberation Road, we want to remove all the shackles of, you know, that enslavement, that legacy of our enslavement in our names, because names have power, names have meaning, and names speak to your spirit in that sense. So we go in a process, a lot of us, in reclaiming an African name that we grow and develop into. Um, and I'm saying that as well to say, what was your process of reclaiming Amitai?
Yes. What was the process of reclaiming
Yeah.
Amitai? Okay. When I was in Natenge study group, I met a brother, and uh, we developed a relationship, and he was I sort of let him know that I was looking to change my name, and he said he knew lots of names. So he compiled a list of African names and he gave me the list. And from that list I chose Amitai because he wrote down that the meaning means truth. That's what he wrote down. So I said, okay, I'm for truth. So from that long list, I chose Amitai. And then Brother Femi, I told Brother Femi that I was looking for a name. And he gave me the middle name he gave me is Maziru. My middle name
Okay.
is Maziru. And it means victorious. And
Definitely.
then Lumumba, I'd come to learn about Baba Patrice Lumumba, first Prime Minister of Congo, and
Mm.
admired his stance against the Belgians. So I chose Lumumba myself. So my name is Amitai Maziru Lumumba. Um, and so I asked, because I'd met Brother Femi slightly before I met Alke Bulan. Yeah, so I was sort of dealing with both organizations at the same
Yeah.
time. But I decided to become a member of APAS, Brother Femi's organization, because I wanted to be involved in the stuff that he had mentioned about the Saturday schools, creating Saturday schools, teaching in the Black Studies program. And then with Alke Bulan, I was looking at them more from the cultural side perspective in terms of the
Mm.
name changing, going to their fellowship per month, each month, and so on. So yes, I met Alke Bulan in 1990, and I asked them if they would come along and do my naming ceremony in the January. And they came along to my home and conducted my name changing ceremony. And it involved, quite a bit of, one aspect of it, you burn the slave name, and then you reclaim the reclaim our African. When news fed back from some family members,
Oh, oh, that went down.
when, when news fed back to my mother from some family members who had come to my naming ceremony, when they fed back the news to her, she almost collapsed. As a matter of fact, she went into a deep depression during the 90s
Oh no.
because of my activities in on Liberation Road. But as I said, I felt that I was not felt. I knew that I was called to do this work. So whether my mom was happy about it or not, I was just going ahead with it, you know. And
You think about
she
it.
was deeply disturbed. She says, "Why did you change your father's name?" I said, "It
Mm,
wasn't my father's name. It was a slave name that was,
mm, mm,
you know."
mm.
So she couldn't forgive me for those things, throwing away the name that she gave me. And to be quite honest, when you're young and you're enthusiastic, to me, I was doing the right thing. It was
Yeah.
many, many years later that, as I got older and became a bit wiser, I thought to myself that I could have probably handled it a bit more diplomatically, you know,
Mm.
instead of just saying, "Oh, it was a slave name, man. I don't want it anymore," etc.
Fire about that.
Instead of handling it that way, maybe I could have probably calm her a
Sat
bit
her
and
down,
sat her
met
down
her.
and be a bit more gentle with. But to be quite honest, whatever way I approached it, she was never going to accept it. But I probably should have been a bit more diplomatic about it.
Well, again, it says a lot about your strength of character. And again, like you're saying, there is definitely a spiritual calling
Hmm.
that we're answering, but it does say is a lot in terms of you being um, as you grow in your sense of self, and the more you're understanding yourself, there's a strength in that because you're able to because it's your mum, and nobody wants to upset your mum and their mother in that way if they have a decent relationship with them. But you was able to stay committed to what you was doing and still maintain, um, even through the ups and the downs, maintain your relationship with your mother because of the relationship you had prior. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I still maintain. We never cut off our relationship. I knew she wasn't happy about what she
Yeah.
called my black activities, this blackness. She just wasn't involved in it at all. She just didn't want to know anything about it. As far as she could see, it was just going to bring me nothing but trouble. I would lose my job. This was going to happen, and that was going to happen, and the police was going to arrest me, and all that. I still continued to maintain a good relationship with her, but I was determined that I was not going to come off this path because I knew that I came on this path for a purpose.
On purpose,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
And I
Um,
think, that's so powerful.
right. So I met Alke Bolan Revivalist Movement in 1990. They did my name changing ceremony. Um,
Oh, and one last thing, the name change in business is not just no, just because this is proper,
Proper
deeper,
ceremony.
on passport
Hmm.
business.
Oh
Yeah?
yes, 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 and
Yeah.
also as well. I changed all my documents.
Yeah.
My passport, my on my national insurance number. I changed my name, my
Yeah.
bank, you name it. Every single thing was changed at my employment, everything. So, but the only thing, my mom still insists on calling me by the slave name, and
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
still
We
does.
do.
So
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue. She's my mom, so I don't argue. But everyone else in my family call me by my proper reclaimed African name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so I began to attend fellowship once a month with Al Bolan Revivalist Movement. So I was in APAS for 10 years, being involved with the school and the Black Studies program. And then
Mm.
I was an active supporter of the Al Bolan Revivalist Movement. So here I was getting the academic part and so on from APAS, and the more cultural, um, spiritual leaning or aspects from Al Bolan. So it was just a perfect
Mm.
combination.
Go for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then let's see. So MPAS folded in 2002, and I became and immediately I then joined Al Bolan Revivalist Movement. So I became a member
Okay.
of Al Bolan Revivalist Movement then. And I began at that stage to teach in the children's program. So the
Okay.
movement had a children's program which was held every Imani Day, every Saturday, in members' homes. So I got involved in starting to teach there. And then by 2007, the that changed into a foundation school. So we opened the Al Bolan Academy of Excellence in 2007. So I became a founder member of our Imani Day School, our foundation school. And I've been the history teacher since, in that school, and also the coordinator of that school. We had a big gathering for the 10th anniversary in 2017, where most of our ex-students came back and
Yeah.
expressed their feelings about going through our Imani Day school. um,
Mm.
the next teaching initiative that I'm involved with at this stage, for the last couple of years, I've gotten to, our school has gotten together with two other schools, Nubia African Community Foundation School and Africa Bantu Saturday School, and we've established what we call the Pan-African Unity Children's Quiz, which is being held on a yearly basis. So it's a quiz that's designed to bring the three schools together to work more closely to basically build another institution in our community to establish competition, healthy competition, and academic excellence amongst the students in those institutions. And we want to bring other schools and other
Mm.
organizations within our community to join the fold. So at present, we've begun to prepare for the next quiz, which is in February, the original Black History Month, and we're trying to bring another one or two schools on board for the next quiz in February next year. So,
Okay.
so at the moment, you can see it's been quite a journey from 1979 up to this point. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Quite a journey.
it's been.
So now at this point, you've been a member of 4 organizations since you've come on the road.
I would say three major organizations. There was Black Unity and Freedom Party initially in 79.
Yeah.
Then there was APAS, the Association for Pan-African Studies and Initiative in which was established in 1992, and
Mm.
then Al Land Revivalist Movement that I joined in 2002. So those
Oh,
were the three major organizations that I've been a member of. But then there are smaller initiatives that have been smaller, other things that I've been involved with, such as campaigns like
okay,
Tottenham
yeah,
Innocent. Those are smaller, and I've been involved in other such small events. But the main part of my journey. So as you can see, Alke Bulan is the longest organization I've been involved with because I've been an active supporter since 1991 to date, but I've been a member of the organization since 2002. Yeah.
okay.
So it's been a long journey. Now, of
Long,
course, I've had to condense a lot of the history. I've had to condense it down so that it fits within this time frame that we've got here. Now,
yeah.
there's another part to what you wanted to talk about, but I don't know if we still have.
We can touch on a few things, but I just wanted to say, obviously, our Kebalan revivalist movement is where I met you.
Yes,
Um, when I think maybe the same year, the Saturdays, the foundation school was launched in the physical,
yeah.
to the public. Um, and I was gonna say that what has what has you've lived life throughout your time of organization till today. What has How has organization, I suppose that's the next question to some extent, but how has that shaped and maintained you on Liberation Road? So in regards to like with your mum might not being happy with the path you've chosen, but in some senses the path you've chosen is what has helped to strengthen and maintain your relationship, I would say. What would you say?
Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. Just repeat that quickly. Sorry.
I was saying
Not the
that,
whole thing.
um, sorry?
Not the whole thing. Just the last part there.
I was saying that, um, so for an example, your mum would say, the whole being on Liberation Road, being in black activities, um, all the dangers and such things that she foresaw. But I'm saying that being in an organization, would you say, has helped to strengthen your understanding of, let's say, parenthood and family and that bond that you have with her to maintain a sense of it? Has being in organization helped to develop and maintain you in that way? Does that make sense?
Oh, most definitely, because um, being in organization has helped me to learn my culture, learn about my identity. So, for example, if I wasn't in organization, and studying the things, reading the materials that I've read, studying the things that I've studied, um, going to different learning environments, lectures put on, knowledgeable people have come over to teach us about our culture, how we lived in Africa before we were kidnapped and taken away. What was the culture like before invasion, before conquest, before colonization, before enslavement? What was Africa like? If I wasn't in organizations, I don't really think that I would have learned all these things to develop my character, to make me a stronger person. Because, quite often I've said to myself, if I wasn't in organization, what would I be doing? Would I be living my life like, any ordinary person who just go to work, come home, watch TV, do the shopping, go out dancing or partying or bingo or whatever, that people choose to do. Would I believe in that sort of life?
Mm,
Or if if I was to go down the road of my mother, then the majority of my life would have been in the church, you know.
mm,
Um, and I don't think I would have, not don't think, I know definitely I would not have been fulfilled being in the church, because as a matter of fact, I was in the church. I was brought up in the church,
mm,
and I even got baptized. How old was I when I got baptized? I think I might have been 19 or that sort of age. Yeah, and I voluntarily went. I was
mm,
going to church. So even though I was looking for blackness in my teens, I didn't see it around, and I didn't come across it till I was 21. But in my
mm,
teens, I had that yearning for it, but I was still going down the path in which I was brought up, going to church on a Sunday, and
mm,
then I broke away from my mom's church, and me and my friend went to more into the Pentecostal leaning, and we both got baptized, and after a while I left because I wasn't feeling fulfilled from it. So yes, you get a sense of fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment. Well, me in particular, I get that
yeah,
fulfillment being on Liberation Road. And I've met some fantastic brothers and sisters who are more dear to me than some blood relative, in terms of we have a closeness. I remember in the days of APAS, I felt that, with the brothers and sisters that I was working with, and also in our movement in Al Bulan, the brothers and sisters that you work with, they quite often you feel closer to them than even some members of your own family,
yeah,
because of this closeness that you develop in working together,
yeah.
sacrificing together, struggling together, doing,
So,
you just, your characters develop. And yes,
yeah,
not perfect. But
yeah,
when you don't see each other, you miss each other and you check up on each
mm,
other, and
mm,
and you hope that in the next life, when you come back, that you'll meet these same brothers and sisters and carry on the liberation work. Well, that's how I think
mm,
anyway.
yeah. And that's why I love you, the way you think. I was going to say as well, again, in terms of using your example of relationship with your mum, but just as you as an auntie, you're so committed to all the young people that are introduced into your life. So your nieces and nephews have just, everybody needs an Auntie Amitai. You don't forget a birthday. You make sure everybody gets a book. You're always connecting with them, seeing, attending to their needs, how you can support, and you do that not just on the family level, but every child that you have some connection to. That you are that way inclined with them. So I feel like organization has just been able to, like you're saying, all that learning and growing has opened you up for everybody to receive, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's a blessing, definitely a blessing to know you and understand you in that way.
And I'd like to comment here where you talk about organization, um, you know, enables you to learn about your culture. So, for example, you talk about um, my involvement with children in the community. Yes, I do it because it's from within me, but also I'm consciously aware that our culture was about,
Hmm.
it was a communal culture. And I'm
Yeah.
also consciously aware that our ancestors not just taught, but they taught us that it takes a village to raise a child. And not only did they just teach it, they lived it.
They live.
They
They
raised
live.
they raised children. Children were raised communally. And as a matter of fact, I know that it wasn't just and in just just words that they were saying. I know that they lived it because I was born in Jamaica, and I spent
Mm,
my first 12 years there,
mm,
and I was raised in a village. And believe
mm,
me, everybody in the village were involved in raising you. Everybody. Yeah.
definitely.
So and of course that we know that that was brought over, that mindset was brought over from Africa,
Absolutely.
Caribbean. It was in the psyche of our people. So after enslavement, they just picked up and carried that on. Yeah, so I learned all these things by being in organizations. Had I not been in organizations, I wouldn't know how our ancestors lived, how they required us to live, the institutions, the social institutions
Mm,
that they created. So there are many things that happens in our organization that I haven't even mentioned. The rites of passage programs that the Al Bulan revivalist movement takes our children through.
mm,
The naming ceremonies, the marriage ceremonies, the passing over ceremonies, all these things that I've been involved with my brothers and sisters within the community
mm,
and within our organization. And that's why we're so close, because
mm,
we live in all aspects of our life.
mm,
My brother
mm.
Morlana Karenga says we have nothing better to do with our lives. And that's I have nothing
Nothing better, literally.
absolutely nothing better to do with my life
Mm,
than to do
mm,
liberation work.
mm, mm.
That's how I see it. Yeah.
We give
And that's
thanks
why I
and
know that I was sent here to do this work.
anytime I feel demotivated, I'm frustrated, I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I can be bothered to do anything. I speak to Aunt Amitai. Yeah.
And we have some jokes with each other, innit?
And get a dose of inspiration
Uh-huh.
and the
Uh-huh.
type of conversation that I have that I'm very, very appreciative of.
Uh-huh.
But that's what I kind of wanted you to go into what you just spoke of in terms of all of the elements that encompass organizing and liberation, and in some senses all of my shows are about that in some way, shape, or form. But I need you, the people, to speak on what it means, what it does, what's the functionality, because a lot of the times when we're talking about Sankofa, when we're talking about reclaiming, when we're talking about taking a village, what does it actually look like? What does that, we say it, but what does it look like? What does it mean? How do you do that? And yeah, how you spoke about it, that being organizing amongst ourselves for the betterment of ourselves is the only key. Like I said, we are our best line of defense. So yeah, Antamitai, I'm so thankful for that. Um,
Yeah,
time is ticking.
time is ticking, but there's something that I'd like to mention.
Please do.
Yeah. I haven't really gone into um some of the the books, some of the bookshops within our communities that have helped to shape my spiritual and
Yeah,
educational growth over the years.
yeah.
Bookshops that were in existence years ago, and some of them no longer exist, which is a pity.
Mm, yeah.
Bookshops, when I first came on Liberation Road and I discovered bookshops such as Grassroots Storefront, Head Start books, Timbuktu books, as well as individuals in the community who, and also there's Brother Papakai who has got his book distribution, and brothers and
Mm,
sisters who would buy books from Brother Papakai and then would sell them on in the community. There was this
mm,
hive of activities that were going on
mm,
in the community, particularly during the 90s, during the 80s, during the 90s was the best decade of that. There,
mm,
people were just involved in buying books and books and books. Every event you go to, I would be coming home with bags of books, and in the 2000s as well. And what's so disappointing, and
mm,
not forgetting brother Emmanuel, who still has his book business going. Um, but it's just so sad to see this aspect of our liberation, the book
mm,
business, going
mm,
down instead of
mm,
going up.
mm,
So you see certain things that you don't like to see, because we
mm,
know that back in the day, our people, in the days of the Songhai Empire, books were more valuable than anything else. That's how
mm,
much our
mm,
people loved learning. And now we've replaced that with YouTube, and so on and so on. And YouTube is fantastic. I love it. But at the
mm,
same time, I would love to see our people begin to build their libraries at home once again,
mm,
because
mm,
books and is one of the main source of my development, yeah, and learning from those who have, written these books. And I've
mm,
mentioned some of the famous names already. You know,
mm,
the Van Sertima's and the journals, all those journals that he has put together, and
mm,
great historians such as Shikanta Diop and Charles Finch and Jacob Carruthers, Amos Wilson, all these different people. I would never have known them had I not been on Liberation Road.
mm,
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
very, very important that our people join organizations. I've seen how much it's helped me, because I would have just been a Christian, only interested in the Bible. Had I not come on Liberation Road, I'd have been like a lot of Christians, because a lot of our people, they see the Bible as the most important book. And so for some of them, no other book is as important, and some of them probably only just read the Bible. So I'm glad
Mm.
that I didn't actually continue down that path. Um, I know you
As
said
well.
time is against us, but if there's anything else you want me to go into, um,
Well, I do want us to still touch on the fact that with all of that history, um, how important education, um, as you rightly have said before, Pan African education has been to one, your development on Liberation Road, but also as you're offering your service to community. How important has that been for you?
my Pan-African education,
Yeah.
it's vitally important, because the word Pan-African really, it captures what I'm about. Yeah, because I'm not just about um, any particular group of African living in just one particular place in the world.
Mm,
I'm interested in African people globally,
mm,
wherever we are.
mm,
So those in Mama Africa, the black people who lives in the Pacific, who have been
mm,
there from thousands of years. Those of us who were the black people in Australia and all those other islands of the Pacific. Those of us who were dragged out of Mama Africa and taken to the Americas,
mm,
the Caribbean, into
mm,
Europe, into Asia. Yeah. So I'm about basically trying to re- rebuild our consciousness. This is what all our great teachers. This is what
mm,
they've our great teachers and leaders who came before us. The Wilmot Blyden, the Henry. Sylvester Williams, the Marcus Garvey, and all the greats who came before us. They basically were about rebuilding the African mind so that we can
mm,
physically rebuild ourselves as an autonomous power within the
mm,
world. So we want to unify the African continent, meaning the black people, the African people of Africa. We're not talking about the invaders of North Africa. We're not talking
mm,
about the invaders in Southern Africa. The Europeans who are in South Africa. We're talking about the African people, building unity within Africa, and then
mm,
those of us in the diaspora helping to build that and seeing ourselves as one global family, whether we're living on the continent or whether we're living in the diaspora. And basically,
mm,
we in the diaspora need to help to rebuild our motherland, because when our motherland, Africa, becomes united, strong, powerful, it will lend protection to the Africans scattered abroad. So I'm about Pan-Africanism, yeah, the unity of African people, the building of Black power in the world, yeah, and of course, you've got some great leaders that came and demonstrated that to us, like Omar Wali, Malcolm X, Khalid Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, you name them, you know, um, Queen Nzinga, etc. So I wouldn't be with who I am if I didn't have this history, if I didn't know this history that I'm talking about. It
mm.
shaped me, it shaped my consciousness. All these books that I've read, all these great leaders that I've spoken about, they've shaped my consciousness, because when I on Liberation Road, I knew none of what I'm talking about now.
Let me ask you. You said as well, the lack of bookshops um, and you would like for people to go back to building libraries in their homes.
Yeah,
Would you say, and people need to join organizations?
yeah,
Would you say, if somebody says, "Oh, but what organization?" I don't know of any, or if somebody says, "I don't like some of the organizations that are out there, I want to build my own." What is your stance there? And also, study groups. Do you think there's enough study groups? Do we need to be creating more?
right. Let's start with the study groups. Um, I do know that Brother Robin is part of uh, an online study group called the Black Secret. I think he's part
Yeah,
of that, isn't it? So that's a great initiative there, and I'm sure online there are plenty study groups and things online, but
you
maybe
can't beat
maybe,
in person.
maybe yeah, maybe we shouldn't be, not maybe, I don't think we should focus fully or totally online. I think there's definitely still room for people to meet together and study face to face. It could be a combination of both. Yeah,
Mm,
you could say meet once a month for the face to face studies, and
mm,
then maybe 2 or 3 times online. But
mm,
you still need that face to face, because yes, we have to use new technology, and these days we're so busy. Technology does have its place where we can do some of the lessons online. But what we're finding is that it's like technology, is taking over, whereby
mm,
people don't see the need to have the face
mm,
to face teaching and learning like we
mm,
had in the past. We need to bring some of that back. Um,
mm,
and yeah, also with our children. Yes, it's good you can have some of your lessons online with teaching the children, but you can't beat the face to face teacher meeting the children and physically, and the children interacting and learning from each other, um, physically. You can't
Mm.
do that. Yeah.
I
So I
said for
would like,
ages that our foundation schools, sorry, our foundation schools should have waiting lists. None of them should be empty.
that's right. That's right. None should be empty. And when you consider what's going on in the school system, where our children are being excluded and all manner of different things are happening, why are we putting all our faith in the school system? We should be
Yeah,
busily building our Imani Day schools, building our
yeah,
foundation schools,
yeah,
with the intention of creating
yeah,
full-time schools.
yeah.
Talking about that in terms of organization, you're talking about organizations. Yeah, yeah, people can create their own organization if they want to, but one thing that I've learned, um, is that one of the reasons for our downfall as a people was that, when the conquerors, the invaders, started to come into Africa. Chancellor Williams pointed this out in his book, Destruction of Black Civilization.
Mm,
Once the invaders started to come into Africa, and the migrations across Africa started to happen as people were fleeing from the invaders,
mm,
many of our empires, they broke up, and
mm,
our people were sort of sent off in different directions, and over time, we didn't get the chance to rebuild these big empires that we had before, and so we
mm,
became small little communities here and there. And so when
mm,
the invaders begin to come in later centuries and see us small and splintered, they were able
mm,
to pick us off one by
mm,
one. Yeah.
mm,
So whilst says it's okay for us to be having our little organizations here and there, yeah,
mm,
it's vitally important that we have a national organization that all the smaller organizations can become members of. So that,
yeah,
that one national organization then will represent the interest of our nation, the African nation in the UK,
yeah,
our interest to the government. And for example, I've always said that, if we're going to allow the school system to teach, say, Black history during Black History Month, yeah, we should have we should actually design that curriculum.
yeah,
We should be telling the school what to teach, how to teach it, go in and teach them what to teach and how to teach it. But we can only do that if we're coming towards it as a nationally organized body of people. So our
mm,
one organization could be putting that forward to the school system, and they can't afford to refuse it because it's not coming from one school or one
yeah,
family. It's coming from the national body that represents African people in this country. So that's one way there we can see how it will work. In terms of our motherland, many of us would like to go back and help out and so on. If we had a national organization, we could
mm,
be making representation, and in our
mm,
motherland, we could be, helping to develop our motherland using our resources through that national organization. But we can't do any of this because we're so small and splintered in our
mm,
small little organizations here and there.
mm,
When we're not really going to achieve much with these small little organizations because many of them have only got a few members. Yeah.
yeah,
You don't have the resources that's needed because it's just too small and not as effective as it could be if we were to come under a big umbrella.
yeah. On Tamita, I can speak to you all night.
Me too.
This has been a very uplifting and enriching conversation,
Hmm.
and I thankful that you have given your time this evening because you are a busy woman all the time, busy, busy, busy. You're looking after many. So I'm very thankful, very humbled that you was able to give me your time and also able to share your journey with me because I know I have an exclusive. Not many people have this documentation, but it's important. You are a valuable member of our community, and just documenting a droplet of your story is so important. And there's so much more you could share and go deep into. So we will definitely carry on this story, this conversation, I should say. Um, I'm sure people are going to be looking forward to the rest of it. So I give thanks. Any last words that you want to give to our listeners and viewership?
Yeah, just to say thank you very much for inviting me to, just share my story. Um, and I just, appreciate, just being able to serve my community. I came here for a purpose, and
Mm,
um, and I feel that I've been living my purpose.
definitely.
And I just hope to have the health and the strength to continue to serve my community, particularly our children who are our future. And if we're not preparing them, then basically our future will not be guaranteed. So, I came in this dispensation of time to do that. And I just hope that the ancestors are pleased with my efforts so far.
Definitely. Definitely. You stayed committed and steadfast. So, in these times, that's the minimum requirement, and you've given an abundance of a lot more than that. So, I'm sure the ancestors are more than pleased.
Thank you.
Um, and that is our show for this week. We had the wonderful Auntie Mitai breaking it down. We look forward. I will see you soon for the next edition of Sankofa Speaks with our next guests. Um, See you then. And stay tuned, like, share, and subscribe to Kimbunga Media.